Greetings and good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Wolf, and I am very pleased to announce the one-year anniversary of the A Moment with Dr. Wolf's video series. Today, I have joining me my brother, Tarek. You want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, everybody.
And I'd also like to introduce Patrick here, who is also known as Finn the Pony on YouTube, and he is here this evening to be sort of an admin to look through all of the questions, but also because he was instrumental for releasing the anniversary special that's coming out tomorrow morning, and I am very impressed with what he came up with, considering that it's nearly 20 minutes long, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing all the audience response to that one. So, Finn, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hello, everybody. How are you tonight?
I want to thank each and every person who has helped me to get this far. The support from all my watchers has been wonderful, and even from my Patreon contributors, they've helped me to improve the content of my channel and help me have the ability to go around the country to various conventions, and I'm definitely looking forward to a number of them. I'm sure we'll be discussing some of that later. But for now, the main focus that we wanted to get to is answering questions from the audience. Over the past many, many months, there have been countless volunteers for the A Moment with Dr. Wolf series. Over a dozen new volunteers every month, at least. And I simply can't keep up with that kind of demand. There are so many people who not only want to be a guest on the series, but just want to have their own personal questions answered. They are looking for advice on any number of different subjects. And I know that I won't be able to answer every question that comes along, but tonight I'm going to try. And I have my brother Tarek and Finn the Pony here to help me do so.
Oh, and by the way, Finn, looking at the YouTube channel, it looks like your OC is coming through.
All right.
Fantastic. I'm glad that works. I was worried that wouldn't be coming through properly. All right.
Yeah.
So I assume that the both of you have been looking through the comments, and we are going to be looking for questions for whoever can come up with what's on their mind.
Mm-hmm.
The first question that I see is from Matthew Jensen, and says, with the information you know so far about Season 5, does it sound like a good season?
Well, I have been looking in through information on Season 5. However, I'm not going to get into specifics because I know that that's going to get into some spoiler territory, and there just might be some people here watching this video who don't want to hear about anything of Season 5. I will say that I am certainly looking forward to what they have in store, and a lot of the elements they've been hinting at are even surprising and rather exciting. I'm sure that there's going to be a ton of new possibilities that they're going to be bringing up with all these different characters. But I will leave it at that in order to keep things spoiler-free.
One of the things that I've seen in just watching some of the teasers that Hasbro has been putting out is that they are they're doing a lot of anticipation. They're kind of hinting at a lot of things, but they're really not saying very much. And I've noticed that with the different teasers that I've seen, and then they always put an advertisement for toys at the end. And so I'm thinking, okay, we're here to watch the show, but not all of us are interested in the toys. So
yeah, they still haven't set a release date yet. There is no official start for Season 5.
Oh, yes, there is. Yes, there is. They say spring 2015. That's the official start.
They used to say winter 2015. That was last year, I remember that. And spring 2015 is still too generalized. There are plenty of people, myself included, who want a specific date, and they still haven't given it.
All right. Wow, there are so many questions going by already, just in the first 5 minutes. Finn,
I managed to type out a few of them. I've actually got a few right here.
So I hope you can type 100 words a minute, because that's how fast they're going by.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Here's one. This is actually an interesting one. Out of all of your moment with Dr. Wolf's, what was your hardest therapy session?
The
that's a good
hardest
one.
one?
Yep.
Oh, I suppose it depends on what you mean by hardest, because hardest to script is not necessarily the same as hardest to put together. In the case of the main 6 sessions, I'm sure that those have required the most effort to put together, especially considering that it's not just where I'm writing for Dr. Wolf, but also for another character specifically from the show. And I will say that I have a lot of trouble writing dialogue for characters from the show. It never really sounds quite right, and I have to give a shout out to Starbat in particular, who has provided a ton of help in getting the dialogue just right for those characters. And in those main 6 sessions, I've always wanted to have the artwork and the animation be at least a bit of a step up from anything else that I've done. So in that respect, you could say that those have been the hardest. But if you're looking at just straight scripting and getting everything to be heartfelt and genuine, and I'm sure Tarek can attest to this, because when I was writing a script with him back in, oh goodness, that was in August, maybe? Oh,
Which script?
it was A Moment with Dr. Wolf and Striving Onwards Without Your Dreams.
Ah, yes, of course.
That was the one where you were the guest, but the focus was actually on Dr. Wolf.
Yeah, it's kind of like you were having your own analysis session, because we were talking about your own feelings and your own the limitations that you had run into, you were, and the thing that we were left with a lot was that you were saying that you were really jealous of my situation. And I have to, just on the side here, a lot of the fans got onto that thread and they were saying, what are you jealous about, Dr. Wolf? I mean, what is this limitation, this problem that you're running into? I'm wondering if you'd be willing to talk about that on the air, or is that something you don't want to talk about yet?
I intentionally kept a lot of that session subtle because I wanted the audience to interpret it on their own. I wanted them to think very carefully about everything that went into those words and come to their own conclusions. And over time, I saw that a lot of people actually figured it out. Oh, this is what he really meant when he was saying all of these things. And whenever people asked those questions, I would always respond with, pay close attention to when Dr. Wolf specifically says how much he envies Tarek, and maybe that you'll pick up on it.
Yeah, the specific times when he says that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I suppose that a lot of people figured it out when they were able to look through the video and find those moments again. And I'm very proud of that particular video because I put so much genuine feeling of my own into everything I was writing into the script. And I have to say thanks once again to your son, Max, who provided all the artwork there, because I know that it took him at least a couple of months to come up with all those different poses and all those different emotions.
Yeah, and that's actually the first time that he had drawn himself into a piece of artwork, and you noticed he drew himself as a human, not as his OC, because he didn't feel like he could voice his OC just right yet. It's interesting.
Now, you had mentioned earlier, and I know that there are plenty of people in the audience right now who would like to have a better explanation of what I was really getting into for that video, that particular script. And I suppose I could give at least a little more detail, but again, only up to a certain point. I specifically came to Tarek in that video talking about how much I envied his situation because he has children of his own, and Dr. Wolf doesn't. And like I said before, a lot of my own personal, genuine feeling went into that script because, to be honest, that has been the major goal of my life ever since the age of 14. And that's not an exaggeration. I can remember the very specific day when I was 14 when I decided that I wanted to be a father. And it has been a very difficult journey for me, considering that I'm still nowhere near reaching that point. But I can understand that a lot of people really wanted to hear that from me specifically, particularly when watching that video. And yeah, I suppose this would be a good time if people really wanted to hear the whole truth.
All right. So sorry, I did not mean to wheedle that out of you. I wanted to leave you to bring that up on your own if you chose to.
That's okay. I know there's plenty of people out there who wanted to hear that for themselves.
Okay.
I know that's what people wanted to hear, and I'm looking through the comments right now, and I'm seeing what people are actually writing about it.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Finn, you want to throw another question at us?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right, what we got? I actually got a few right here. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one. What would be your tips on trying to heal after getting out of an abusive relationship?
Oh, that's a good one.
That's
a very good one.
very personal question, and I'm sure that there are a number of people who want to hear a genuine answer about that.
All right, well, can I take this one first?
By all means.
All right. An abusive relationship, that there are a lot of different kinds of abuse. Of course, we know that there's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, and then there is mental abuse, and then there is also neglect. And it really depends on the type of abuse that you have gone through. The healing that takes place for each of those different kinds of abuse is different. And so, but one of the common features to all of those kinds of healing is learning to A, forgive yourself, and B, love yourself. Now, I say forgive yourself, meaning that a lot of victims of abuse end up somehow subconsciously or consciously feeling like the abuse was somehow their fault. And in most cases, in fact, I'd say the majority of cases, that's not true. It is not your fault. And the blaming of yourself for the abuse that happened is something that's part of the healing, is learning to forgive yourself and say, no, it is not my fault. Then the second part that I mentioned before is learning to love yourself once again and feel that you are a worthwhile person despite the abuse. And that is all part of the healing process. Now, I myself, I am not a psychologist by any means.
Well, neither am I.
No, but you play one very effectively. But I do know that these things can take time. It's not something that you can just say, okay, I forgive myself, okay, I love myself. It's not something that's not that easy, especially when when the abuse has happened over a long period of time. That healing does take time. And another thing that really helps with that healing is when you have someone with you who is at your side, who has your back, really. A friend, a loved one, a family member, that is an encouragement that helps you to realize that you can forgive yourself and you can love yourself.
Very well spoken, sir.
Your turn.
Yes. I'm not entirely sure how much more I could add on to that, because you covered a lot of really good points, even just over those few minutes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It is absolutely essential that you find a way to move on. And like Tarek said, first you have to learn to forgive yourself, and you also have to learn to love yourself, and you have to find that support from someone that you can trust, someone you can depend on and rely on, and not everyone can find that as quickly as they really need to, as much as they want to. It is crucial that you be willing to open up to that possibility, though, because there are many situations where you feel like all you want to do is just close yourself off to the world and not deal with anything, because you feel this innate desire to just stop thinking about everything and stop stressing over everything and just try to shut yourself down. There is an immense desire to do that kind of actions whenever you're feeling such distress and despair. I know that it's never going to be easy to overcome those kind of feelings, but it is absolutely crucial that you find a way to open yourself up to that possibility of having others help you.
Everyone from what they're talking about.
Now, there are many people who will try to reach out to you when you're feeling that distress, that despair. And in some cases, I have seen this many times where people who have been abused in whatever way, they don't want to be helped because, like Tarek said, they feel it's important that you need to forgive yourself. You need to love yourself. Feel that you're worthy of that kind of help. You have to feel that you're worth something. You have value as a human being. But you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. And in those moments when you're in distress and despair, your comfort zone has grown so tiny and it's so hard to even just move an inch outside of that little comfort zone and open yourself up to the world again. But I urge everyone who is in those situations to find that courage and find that hope that there can be better days ahead. But you have to step out of your comfort zone in order for those better days to happen, and you have to open yourself up and learn to trust those who are deserving of your trust.
And that's like I said, it takes time to take those steps. It's not something that you can just wake up one morning and say, okay, now I can step out of my comfort zone. Okay, now I can trust people. It's not that easy. But one thing that I noticed from my own experience is the willingness to walk out on a limb, as it were, and to take that risk, to put yourself out there, to say, okay, I'm not sure I should trust this person, but I'm going to try. What happens is, instead of folding yourself into this little cocoon where you don't trust anybody and you don't let anybody connect with you, what you do is you open yourself up to connect with other people once again. And does that open you up to get hurt? Yes, it does. But it also opens you up to heal. It allows you to let people come in and connect with you once again, and to try and heal those wounds. Now, some people are so afraid of getting hurt again. That's why they wrap themselves up in this little cocoon, and they don't let anybody in, and they don't let anybody come and connect with them. And then some people stay in that cocoon for years, and then they get to a point where they realize they're not connecting with anyone. There is a basic human need for connection with other people. And when you guard yourself so tightly that you don't let anybody else connect with you, then you lose out on that element of human connection. And that can be very damaging to people. So the thing that I have learned from my own experience is open yourself up, allow yourself to take that risk of getting hurt, so that you also open yourself up to connections with other people.
Very nice.
Sorry,
hope that is.
I'm waxing philosophical.
Well, we're both waxing philosophical, and I'm sure that we're waxing philosophical from many of the same starting points. We both had very similar upbringings, after all.
Indeed.
Right.
And for those of you who are wondering, the young person that poked his head in here just a moment ago, that was my son, yes. That is not my oldest son that did all the artwork. This is actually my son. His name is Fida Fox. That's his OC online. Hello, Fida. And he just wanted to poke his head in and say hi to everybody.
Oh, hi, Fida.
Hello.
All right. I hope that our discussion has been helpful for anyone who has been going through that distress and despair. And I honestly wish each and every one of you the best in luck in finding ways to heal and open yourselves up to the world again.
Yeah.
Finn, do we have another question?
Yeah, we took a long time on that question. Sorry.
It was a very, very personal and powerful question. And yes, it does deserve
a lot had to be said on that
and
video,
more.
so.
Yeah, that one did deserve some good treatment.
Hello again.
What you got for us?
Alrighty, let's see what we got. Oh, this is actually a really interesting one. I actually want to know this myself. Throughout your entire time doing A Moment with Dr. Wolf, what have others taught you?
Oh, goodness. Oh,
I'm going to have to let you take that one, Dr. Wolf.
I know. I'm trying to think. I know that I have learned a great deal by helping others in this journey. There have been many circumstances where, as I am listening to someone, or rather reading what they're typing into A Moment with Dr. Wolf script, and I will say that pretty much every single A Moment with Dr. Wolf script is basically opening up a Google Doc where my guest and I will write our thoughts in the moment back and forth. And whatever comes to mind in that moment is what usually ends up in the script for the video. We may do some tweaking of sentence structure after the fact, but pretty much every moment with Dr. Wolf has always been in the moment. And there have been many times where, as I'm reading what the various guests have been putting into the documents, I will actually be thinking, how would I react? How would I learn from that situation? What would I accomplish by doing these things a certain way? And yes, I have learned by actually listening to others and the points that they bring up and their situations. And in many respects, even the session that I mentioned earlier between Tarek and myself, the focusing on Dr. Wolf and striving onward without your dreams, there were a number of parts of that script that I didn't even know where they came from until I actually wrote them down. And looking back over it now and listening to it again, it still really gets to me because I didn't know that I had that capability to come up with half the stuff that I said. And it's very much a learning experience for so many of those A Moment with Dr. Wolf sessions, when I'm sitting back and better understanding other people's perspectives and helping them to gain some of their own perspective. I'm growing in that same way. Even in the case where I'm writing dialogue for any of the main 6, I have completed 4 scripts for main 6 sessions for A Moment with Dr. Wolf thus far. And by the time I finish them, I start feeling a little surprised because I'm starting to realize, I'm actually learning from them as I'm teaching them. And their responses and how they overcome problems and their own struggles. It's really quite fascinating. The more I get into this, the more I understand I'm actually teaching myself in the process. I'm growing and improving, not just in the talents of voice acting and editing and writing scripts, but just living life. It's really a fascinating concept. I don't know how else to explain it.
Well, something that I've always said for a long time is the best way to learn something is to teach it. I have found that to be true in my life many times. Is when I really want to make sure that I get something and I learn something, and it really sticks with me, I teach it to someone else, and then that really solidifies the topic in my own mind.
Alrighty. I hope that was enough for everyone. Do we have another question here, Finn?
On it. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one. As someone with no skills, what exactly can I do to contribute to the MLB community?
Wow. Okay. First of all, someone that says that they have no skills, I don't believe that for a second.
Me neither.
Everyone has skills in lots of different areas, and that's one of the reasons why the fandom is so versatile and so full of life, is because there are so many different skills that are contributed to the fandom.
Exactly. Artists, musicians, analysts, video makers, animators. The main thing that I always thought of is that if you say to yourself that you don't have a skill, you're just not looking hard enough.
Now, the thing is, everybody focuses on the most prominent skills that are displayed, i.e., the animations, the artwork, the music, and the authored stories. Those are the ones that are really the most prominent. But those aren't the only ones out there, and it's really easy to get caught up in saying, well, if I can't do one of those four, then I really can't contribute. There's nothing that I can give to the fandom. Please don't believe that. Please don't believe that. There is so much that you can give, and at the very least, what you can do is you can reach out and you can give a hand of welcoming and brotherhood and friendship to other people in the fandom. There are so many in these fandoms. See, I'm in the furry fandom myself, but I think in the brony fandom it's very similar, that there are so many people in the fandom who feel alone, who feel like they are they're unnoticed, maybe, or unloved, or maybe they don't even fit in. And anyone can reach out to these people and give them a hand of friendship and brotherhood, and help them to feel like they do belong, help them to feel like they do have a place in the fandom. That's just one of the things that you can do to add to this fandom that isn't one of those big four skills that everyone focuses on. There's really a lot that people can do.
It used to be that I didn't contribute anything to the fandom. I didn't think I could contribute anything to the fandom. I was amazed at what other people could do for the fandom. This was way back in 2012 and early 2013. Mm-hmm. And pretty much every day I could find something new within the brony community that just boggled my mind. People are really putting together these fantastic looking projects, and art and music and animation and videos and stories and so many other things. And there was a point when I couldn't really figure out how I could contribute to the fandom, even though I really wanted to. I could see the merits of the brony community even way back then. I could see how welcoming and inviting they were, and I could see how creative they were, and I could see how much of a good message they were spreading through their words and their actions. I wanted to do something. I wanted to take part in some way and help the community grow. Until one point I decided, you know, it doesn't really matter how people react to what I'm going to do, but I had been listening to analysis and reviews of so many other people back then, and I thought, you know, there's a ton of stuff that I know I want to talk about, even though I'm not sure how to talk about it. Before that point, I had never made a video on a computer in my life.
Believe me, Dr. Wolf was very, very shy, and he had a very difficult time reaching out to people. I was very impressed that he actually made that first video, and so that was totally out of his comfort zone.
It's still out of my comfort zone in many different ways. It's still something that is difficult for me. When I upload a video, I always have this thought in the back of my mind: did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong?
Yes,
are people gonna like what I actually put out there? That never goes away.
I know, right?
At this point, it never goes away. But if you're willing to overcome your hesitations, if you're willing to just struggle your way through that challenge, you can discover that you are far more capable than you ever gave yourself credit for. I've said this countless times to countless people, and it's still so hard for some of them to even believe what I'm saying, but it's true. It's so true. I never would have believed that I could have done so much until I overcame those hesitations and said to myself, I'm going to try. I'm going to do something. I may not get it right the first time off the bat, but I am going to try.
I still get the jitters every time I release a video.
It happens to all of us, believe me.
Indeed.
All right, if you'll excuse me, I need to step away for just a moment.
That's perfectly fine. Finn, do you have another question for me?
Indeed I do. Let's see what we got here. We did that one already. We did that already. Oh, here's actually an interesting one. This one is actually based on balancing time. How exactly do I balance my inner slacker with my inner engineer with such a hard workload? That's an interesting one.
How do you keep yourself from being idle?
Yep.
I know that I've mentioned in a few of my videos before that it takes about 20 hours or even 2 weeks of consistent work in order to start a good habit and hold on to a good habit. Getting rid of your idleness or overcoming that idleness is a frequent struggle. You have to reach a point where you say to yourself, I know that if I spend 2 hours in front of the TV or surfing the internet on the computer, I'm not really going to accomplish much in the long run. Tomorrow, is it really going to matter that I watched this TV show? Or next month, is it really going to matter that I commented on this forum post? Or next year, is it really going to matter that I played all those hours of video games?
I think what you need to do is you need to ask what truly is important to you. One of the person who taught me this was Genesis Whitmore from the furry fandom. She is an excellent artist and she is prolific. She puts out a lot of artwork. But she had a discussion one time where she talked about what is important to you. She said, a lot of people tell me they don't have time. They just can't find the time to do something that makes a difference. They don't have time, like aspiring authors, aspiring artists, or aspiring analysts. They don't have the time. They keep saying they don't have time. Well, she asked, well, what is really important to you? If it is more important to you to sit down and play those 2 hours of video games instead of working on something that will make you grow as a person, then you've discovered what is more important to you. And so it might be good to sit back and just ask yourself, what truly is important to me? And am I willing to put forth the effort to do what is important to me and let these other distractions become less important in my life?
Yeah.
I wanted to tell everyone, I know I've mentioned this many times before, but I actually work a full-time career as an accountant. And that already keeps yeah, whatever you say. That already keeps me busy every week. Even tomorrow, I have a sales conference to attend that's going to take up the bulk of my Saturday. That's what happens. But when I come home from the office every night, I can decide, you know, I've had a really hard day and I feel the need to unwind. I'm going to sit and I'm going to play video games and I'm just going to turn my brain off because I've been using my brain all day. Or I can say to myself, you know, if I put in the 2 to 3 hours it takes to make another video and see that video online, and it'll be there forever for people to come view and learn from or enjoy, that's something that I'll always have. if I spent that 2 to 3 hours playing video games, what have I actually gained? What have I actually helped contribute? What are other people actually going to learn from my example? It's really hard to get over that kind of habit where you feel the need to unwind. I need my time to just do nothing. So many people say that, and I'd like to say that you can overcome those kind of feelings with habit. I come home from the office every day, and I'm spending 20 plus hours a week making videos. More than 20 hours a week on top of a full-time career. And people keep wondering, how can you possibly make so much content? It's important to me. Like Tarek said, it's important to me. I realize I am improving upon my talents. I'm growing in ways that I've never been able to do before. I'm far more social than I've ever been at any other point in my entire life. I'm starting to make a difference.
All right. Now, Steel Shoe says something that I thought is really important as a counter argument to what we're saying here. He said sometimes it is good to turn your brain off. Now, I'm going to agree with that with a caveat. Everyone needs to have some time to unwind and to recharge their batteries. And that's always good. And people they have different ways that they recharge their batteries. They might sit down and read a book. They might listen to music. I personally, mine is playing video games because I'm a professional game developer. There's also watching TV or watching movies or whatnot. If we allow those activities to be there to help recharge us so that we can be more energized when we go out back into the world, then those activities are okay. If it gets to the point, however, where we are using those activities in place of other things that are more important in our life, then we need to re-examine how much time we're spending on those activities.
I suppose I should mention that I haven't abolished video games out of my life, but I'm spending far less time on them, and I've specifically chosen games that I can pick up and put down within a few minutes, because if I need to take a break, if I've been scripting or recording or editing for a while and I just need to take a break, I will pull up a game of FTL is a good example, where I can play 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, and immediately turn it off and get right back into it. Or I'll go online and play Dominion. Dominion is one of my personal favorite card games. And I can play one round of Dominion in 4 or 5 minutes. And that's all it takes for me to get back and work for another hour. If that's the break I need, that's what keeps me going.
All right, Finn, you want to hit us?
All right, one question coming up.
Not literally.
All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, here's an interesting one. I'm moving from my home country to the U.S. for school. Do you have any tips on adjusting to a new lifestyle?
Oh, well, that really depends on what country you're coming from, of course, because every country has a completely different culture. But there are some things that are common to pretty much anyone coming to the United States, and really for anybody who's going from one country to another. I personally spent 2 years in Argentina, and there's a lot of adjustment that you go through. What I learned was first to keep an open mind about the differences in culture. I did my study before I went down to Argentina, and I read about their culture and about what they eat and what they do and their schedule habits and those kinds of things. But that really, I could study that kind of thing all day, but that really didn't prepare me for a lot of the differences in culture that I encountered. So if you keep an open mind and you realize that what may seem very natural to you may actually be something that is based on the culture of your native country, and may not be may serve to confuse people at best, or perhaps offend people at worst. I realized that I made a couple of mistakes there myself when I went to Argentina, and it took me some time to realize the differences in culture and adapt. But my advice would be, yes, to keep an open mind.
I'm glad you at least had that opportunity to spend a couple years outside of the country. So you definitely have more hands-on experience on how to answer that particular question.
Well, that's pretty much the extent of my experience, though.
Still a lot more than I have.
Coming from a foreign country to the United States, I'm sure is in some ways similar, but some ways very different, because the United States has well, it's got. At the risk of offending people, I have to say that the United States of America has a little bit of a spirit of arrogance, and that some people from other countries get kind of offended by that. I want to tell you up front that I do apologize. We do not mean to offend. That is simply the culture that a lot of the United States has.
You have any other questions for us, Finn?
On it. Let's see. This is actually a pretty recent one. When it comes to dealing with angry people, I try to get involved, but only end up making things worse. What's your advice on dealing with angry people like this?
You want to take that one, Dr. Wolf?
I've got some things that I can say, I'm sure.
Okay.
I suppose the first thing that comes to mind is, if you'll forgive the fact that I'm quoting scripture, a soft answer turneth away wrath, and grievous words stirreth up anger.
That's right out of Proverbs, yes?
Yes, that's Proverbs 15:1, I believe.
Yes.
You have to remember to speak softly in whatever you're doing when you're interacting with them, and they may be screaming at you in return, but you have to show that you are being calm and collected while still being firm in what you say. Very softly, but firm. That's a good way to start, at least.
Yeah.
On top of that, I suppose you have to remember that you should remember the phrase that why take offense? Because when you're trying to help someone who is angry, usually they will lash out in ways that maybe later on they'll regret or they didn't mean. But in that moment, you have to say to yourself that it is your choice on whether or not you're going to take offense to the actions of others. Regardless of what they say and what they do, it is always your choice on how you're going to react to it. If you want to help someone calm down, you can't use that kind of, you can't use those words on them, because when they're in that kind of state, they aren't willing to, they aren't ready, I should say, to think that they have a choice in how they're going to feel. Usually people are lashing out for external reasons, and they don't want to be made to think that everything is their fault.
Yeah.
But if you are willing to just calmly and patiently listen to what's on their mind without trying to fix anything, just listen. A lot of people get into a situation where they try to fix the problem. That's their priority. And sometimes people don't want their problems fixed. They just want to feel understood.
Yeah. Can I jump in on that one?
Go right ahead.
I have to agree with that. One of the big problems, especially with men more than women, but some women try and do this as well, is that when we hear problems, we hear concerns, we want to jump in and solve the problem. I know how to fix your problem. If you'll listen to me, then I'll fix your problem, right? Most of the time, that's not what they want to hear. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it isn't. Most of the time, if someone is upset or angry, they want someone to show them that they are, A, that they are a valid person, that their feelings are valid, and B, that they are understood. Now, it may be that this person is being completely unreasonable, completely illogical. However, if you are willing to listen and show them that you understand why they feel the way that they do, as irrational as it may be, if you understand why they feel that way, that goes a mile and a half to helping them to calm down and to become more rational.
Again, well spoken, sir.
Okay, Finn?
Here we go.
I feel like I'm reaching over and hitting the Finn button.
Next question. Boop. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, here's a good one. I have a friend suffering from depression. What can I do to help them?
Mm-hmm.
That one touches a nerve, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Sorry, trying to find the most interesting questions I can here.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good question.
Question, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who want a genuine answer to those kind of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's what we're here for.
I suppose I haven't made it a secret that I have struggled with depression for a very long time, ever since I was a young teenager. This is something that has never fully gone away out of my life, despite everything that I've tried to overcome with it. In my case, I believe what helped ease my depression most was finding purpose. And for a very long time, I was expecting someone else to help me get that purpose in life. I was waiting for something to happen to where I could finally feel like I was making a difference somehow. In the end, I had to find my own purpose. I had to make that own effort. I had to overcome my own struggles. There were plenty of people who supported me along the way and listened to my problems whenever I was willing to talk about them, but in the end, what has helped me most was finding a purpose in helping others. That's a lot of the reason of what I do right now is keeping busy. I feel that when I am serving a good purpose in helping others, it helps a lot of my own feelings about depression. And in many ways, that can help a lot of people who are struggling through depression. If you're seeking to help someone who is feeling down and despair, then the first steps would be very similar to the conversation that we had over someone who's angry. Not necessarily trying to fix their problem, but being there to listen and genuinely understand what they're going through.
Yeah, I'd like to flip the coin there. Dr. Wolf has had his own struggles with depression. On my side, I have someone that is very close to me who also suffers from depression, and so I'm on the side of the person who is trying to help the one who is depressed. It's taken me a number of years to understand clinical depression. That there really are two different kinds. There's the temporary depression that can happen because of a tragedy. But I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I think we're talking about more chronic clinical depression that is caused by chemical imbalances in the brain. It took me a long time to realize that this is not something that they can simply snap out of it. It's not something that's, for those of us who don't go through clinical depression, what we're used to doing is when we have a time where we feel sad or we feel down, we can usually pull ourselves up out of that in a relatively quick time. And we can get back on and moving on with life. For those who suffer from clinical or chemical depression, it's not that easy. It is something, because of there is a chemical imbalance in the brain. The dopamine and the serotonin in the brain is much decreased, and so those feelings of well-being and those feelings of that you have worth are artificially decreased, actually, because your brain, the chemicals just aren't balanced. And so if you go up to someone who is clinically depressed and you say, well, just snap out of it, that is probably one of the worst things that you could say, because they can't. They are physically unable to simply snap out of it. So the best thing that you can do is what Dr. Wolf said, is empathize with them, be with them, listen to them, understand them. Don't try to fix the problem, but help them to feel like they are still a worthwhile person, that their opinions and their thoughts are valid, and that they really can have a purpose and worth in life. And again, like I said before, that's not something that can happen in a day. It's something that can take years.
Like I've already mentioned, depression is something that still comes back and affects me every now and then. It's not as often as it used to be, because I'm keeping busy with good purpose and I am helping others through their own issues. But it's something that I have learned to accept is going to be with me for the rest of my life. I can find ways of dealing with it better than anything I've done before, but I have been able to make a great deal of progress. Even way back when, I used to say to myself, I'm never going to feel better about this. I'm never going to feel better about myself. I'm just always wallowing in my own despair. There are ways that you can improve your situation. Even if it's not as much as you would have liked, there are ways you can improve, even up to a certain point.
I really like what you said, Dr. Wolf, that one of the better ways to emerge, or at least to improve your situation, is to remove the focus from yourself and to place it on others, to see how you can serve others and make a difference in other people's lives. Now, for those who are clinically or chemically depressed, that can be a very difficult thing. But if you can move yourself to start looking at how you can serve other people, about how you can help other people, how you can make a difference in the lives of other people, then like Dr. Wolf said, that actually helps. Believe it or not, when you give of yourself in the service of others, that actually elevates you. And it's been scientifically proven that this kind of thing does work, but a lot of people, it seems so counterintuitive.
I hope that's helpful for a lot of people in the audience, because I've been getting that question from more than a few of my watchers over these many months. I genuinely hope that they can find a little more hope from what we've been talking about here. We have another question?
Yes. All right, what we got here? Oh, there's a good one. I know how important constructive criticism can be, but I take criticism over myself way too harshly. What do you recommend I do about that?
Wow, that's a hard one.
Yeah, it is hard. It is very, very hard. This is something that I still deal with personally, because I can get dozens, if not hundreds, of compliments from my watchers who tell me that my videos are awesome, that I've been able to help them in so many ways, that I should have been doing this years ago, kind of thing. One negative comment can drown out dozens, if not hundreds, of positive ones.
Mm-hmm.
One person who wants to criticize the work that I'm doing for whatever their reason tends to stay with me a lot longer than any of those positive comments. And I'm sure that it's very similar for most everyone in the world. They tend to remember those who disagree with them than those who praise them. In my experience, the best way that I've found to deal with criticism, first off, you do need to step back and you do need to think about the actions that you've undertaken that cause that criticism, something that you've done or something that you've said, or you need to at least consider what they've said. You can't just outright ignore it. You can't just, okay, they don't know what they're talking about, because in many cases you'll still remember it and it's still going to affect you even if you're not willing to admit it. You have to step back and at least consider what they're saying. You have to say, could I be wrong? Could I have learned something? Could I have done anything differently? With that said, after you've taken that step back, after you've examined yourself, after you've looked through what you've done and what you might have done differently, you need to also remember that the majority of people who interact with you on a daily basis aren't criticizing your work. I know it's really hard to think about it that way because, like I said, that one person will stick out far more than those dozens of or hundreds of other people that you interact with on a daily basis. But the majority of people that you interact with on a daily basis aren't going to be criticizing your work. And in many cases, they are going to be praising what you do. They are going to be complimenting what you do, even if you don't hear it from them directly. I do want to encourage that when you have the chance to encourage others, even for small and simple things, something as simple as somebody's holding the door open, when you make that effort to show that appreciation instead of just one word of thanks without even looking them in the eye, it does make a difference. But I also want to emphasize that when you are dealing with those thoughts of criticism and you can't get those out of your mind, you need to understand that what you do on a daily basis, how you're improving upon yourself, is far more valuable than what you usually give credit for. You need to understand that what you're doing and what you're improving on and what you're struggling through shouldn't be ignored. It's really hard to remember that when you're focusing on those notes of criticism, but when you can forgive yourself, sorry for bringing this up again, but when you can forgive yourself and when you can love yourself, it's a little bit similar to what we were talking about earlier. You can objectively take those thoughts of criticism without letting them burden you. You have to be able to face that comment of criticism in order for you to overcome it and look past it. Because if you try to ignore it, it tends to stick with you even if you're not realizing it. So after you've faced it and after you've stepped back and thought about it, you need to remind yourself that everything else you're doing in your life has meaning too, and it's not just this one thing you might have done wrong that's going to overtake everything else. I'm sorry that I might have gone a little bit on a ramble there. I may have lost focus a bit here and there.
The only thing I want to add to that is when you receive criticism for what you do, that like Dr. Wolf said, don't simply discard it and discredit, but first of all think, okay, is this criticism true, or is there some element of truth to it? If there is at least some truth to it, then the comment is valid to a degree, and to that degree you should consider the truth in that criticism and see how that can help you improve. On the other hand, if you stop and consider and say, is this true, or does it at least have some truth to it? And if the answer is no, then you can just say, you know what? I know that's not true. They may think it is. They're allowed to think what they like, but I know it's not true, so I'm just going to move on.
Alrighty. Pardon me. All right, Finn, have you got another one for us?
Yes. I am Finn the Pony, your personal question reader companion.
Yes.
Alrighty, what do we got here? Oh, here actually, this is kind of one based on the show, which is one we haven't actually done in a while. It seems that the most popular MLP fan works are based on really dark subjects, such as cupcakes, for example. Why do you think the MLP community has such an obsession with dark subject matter?
That's not something I can answer. No, actually, no, I do have something to say about that. It's there's kind of a morbid curiosity with the sensational and the and exploring the darker parts of stories, and I think especially with fan fiction, when you write fan fiction that is very flowery and happy and all this kind of stuff, some people may enjoy that, but I think that the writing is not all that compelling. In fan fiction, a lot of fan fiction authors resort to the darker side, or to the to more conflict than you would see normally in the show, because that becomes more compelling to readers. I think that's probably one of the driving factors behind it.
Well, that makes sense. There are many conflicts that really can't be addressed in the show that many authors have said to themselves, you know, I wonder how these characters really would react to these more these darker situations.
Oh yeah.
Something perhaps even akin to something that they're trying to deal with in their normal life. I believe Silverquill and I had addressed this a very long time ago in one of our Moment with Dr. Wolf sessions about why a lot of bronies seem to fixate on mortality when it comes to MLP, when they're writing stories and putting together artwork. They want to see these characters overcome those kinds of challenges, something that will likely never be addressed in the show. They want to be able to explore that aspect. I suppose that is part of it, at least.
Mm-hmm.
There may be many other reasons beyond that, but between Tarek and I, that's probably the best reasons we can come up with. What other questions have we got?
Alrighty. Let's get a jump on it. Alright. Here's an interesting one. Did you expect the Moment with Dr. Wolf to become as popular as it did? And if it didn't, would you still be doing it?
I hadn't expected a Moment with Dr. Wolf to last as long as it has. I think that's a better way to put it, because I had no idea how well it would have been received, but I thought way early in the beginning, I'll never get past a couple of months with this. I'll never come up with enough topics. It's been over a year, and I'm still getting volunteers. Every month, over a dozen new volunteers with even some really compelling subjects that I'd like to tackle, but I can't do that much all at once. I can't get to everyone. This is part of the reason why I wanted to do this live stream. I wanted to give more people a chance to ask their personal questions, and we could give our honest answers, because we may never have a chance to go through as many topics as we're going through tonight. I never expected a Moment with Dr. Wolf to last this long, is a better way to put it. I wasn't really sure how well it would have been received, even when I was first putting together those videos. I was very excited about the prospect, but I didn't know how well it would be received. It's certainly gotten a lot longer than I ever expected it to be. It really has.
So the second part of that question is, if it weren't so popular, would you still be doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Even before A Moment with Dr. Wolf, even before that first video came out with Voice of Reason, nearly a year ago from today, there were people who were messaging me and asking these kinds of personal questions. So even if I wasn't making A Moment with Dr. Wolf videos, I'd still be writing A Moment with Dr. Wolf scripts, even if they were never seen by anyone else, because I'd be writing pages upon pages of responses talking about the very things we're talking about right now.
All right.
Alrighty. All right. Oh, here's a good one. I'm a new analyst to the community, and I feel like I made a total fool of myself on my how do you think I should deal with that?
Making a fool of yourself, my goodness. Well, from my side of the story, sometimes it's good to make a fool of yourself. And that may sound really counterintuitive, but what happens is when you go out there and you just kind of, well, you kind of flub, you make mistakes, and you know, people kind of laugh at you and that kind of thing. If you can take that in stride and react to it and say, "Yep, I made a fool of myself. Great, let's go on." All right, then people will they'll come to respect you for that. And personally, I kind of enjoy making a fool of myself sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Well, whenever we're at conventions, you take on more of a Pinkie Pie personality.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yep.
it comes easier for you than for a lot of other people, I bet. You can make a fool out of yourself and laugh it off later. And that is admirable.
I'm in the same boat as him. I can do the exact same thing.
Okay.
Go Finn. Yeah.
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 It's hard for me to overcome those kind of situations because I'm always a little too hard on myself. I look back at the very first video I ever uploaded, Fluttershy's weakness is part of her greatest strength.
Which is still a good video, by the way.
It's really hard for me to sit and watch that video again because a lot of the things that I did back then, which were very brand new to me and even a little exciting, I look back on it now, and it makes me cringe. It really does, because I was so much of an amateur back then. Not even an amateur. I was such a beginner in so many ways. I felt like I was making a fool of myself in what I was writing and what I was saying and how I was presenting it. A lot of other people don't seem to think that I was a fool for putting that together, but I look back on it now and it still feels cringeworthy to me, at least.
Wasn't that the very video that DigiBrony put onto Equestria Daily for you?
That is the very video that was put on Equestria Daily. It got way more attention than I ever thought it would.
So it was, as you call it, so completely amateur and so cringeworthy. Then why was it so popular? Okay, I think a lot of times we are our own worst critics.
Absolutely. Indeed. The point is, if I hadn't made that video and if I hadn't made a fool of myself in so many ways, I never would have learned from it and I never would have grown into what I am now. And even now, I'm sure that I'm making some mistakes that I'm going to regret later, look back on it. Oh, why did I do that? I was such a fool for doing those kind of things. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
No, the best way to learn is from failure. So
you're growing and you're improving every time you keep working at something and trying something new, challenging yourself and stepping outside of your comfort zone. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I am an amateur artist myself, And I look back on some of the first stuff that I did, and again, I cringe. I say, oh my gosh, I made so many mistakes back then. It just looks so amateur and so childish that I'm almost afraid to show it in public. But it was my first stuff, and I look back on it and I say, you know what? That's where I started. That's where I started putting forth the effort and saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move forward with this. And I don't care how bad it is. I don't care how much people laugh at me. I'm going to keep moving forward. And guess what happens? When you put forth that effort and you keep working at it, you improve. And it seems so easy to say that, but everybody who goes through that process, they think, oh gosh, I'm such a failure, I can't do this, and so many people drop out when all they really need is to stick with it, and they will improve.
All right, I gotta say that my throat is starting to feel the effects of talking for so long. I still want to keep this going for as long as I can.
We have been going for about an hour and 10.
But the water is no longer helping. I can tell my throat is starting to go. So,
well, you just need vocal training, that's it.
Hey, I have been practicing using my voice for a very long time now, recording all kinds of dialogue. I'm sure that I'm better than I used to be, but my throat still reaches a certain point. So I want to keep answering questions, but I'm giving you a heads up. I may not talk as much. I want to try to give each of you more of a chance because I got to give my throat a bit of a rest.
Understood.
All right. Shall we continue?
Please.
Indeed.
All right. Smack that fin button because we got another question coming up. All right. I'm planning to mend a past relationship that I screwed up on. Should I fix it even though we live about 800 miles away?
Okay. That's a really wide open question, and it really depends a lot on the nature of the relationship. But the first question I want to ask you is, how important is this relationship to you? Is it important that you is it important to you to mend this relationship, or is it something that you're just trying to save face? You should probably ask those kinds of questions and really think about them really carefully before you proceed. If it turns out that this relationship is important to you and you want to work to mend it, then the next thing you need to ask yourself is, where did the relationship go wrong? What were the root causes of the problem in the relationship? A lot of times people focus on the symptoms of the problem and not the cause of the problem itself. Look back through the relationship. Look back where things started going wrong. Look back at where the relationship started falling apart, and say, okay, there was this that happened, and this that happened, and this that happened. Were those symptoms, or was that the root cause? And try and dig back as far as you can until you find what the root cause of the breakdown in the relationship was. Once you can identify the root cause, or maybe there's more than one, then it becomes a lot more clear what you need to do to repair the relationship. If that root cause is what was causing the problem, you can look at that and say, how can I reconstruct this relationship and ensure that core problem does not enter into the relationship again? And the thing that has to happen is you need to realize is no matter how much you try, no matter what you say or what you do, you cannot change the other person. You can only change yourself. And it's really hard for a lot of people to come to that realization. Oh, sure, yeah, I know that up here. I can't change them. But the behavior that comes out says that subconsciously they still think that they can change the person if they just say the right thing or do the right thing. The truth is, change must come from within. The only person who can change that other person is themselves. And if they don't want to change, then there's really nothing you can do about it. What you have to do is see how you can change yourself to eliminate the core problem that happened in that relationship.
Very well spoken. Yes.
Thank you.
You have another question?
Let's do it. All right. Oh, here's an interesting one. Not necessarily personal, just sort of a factual one. If Dr. Wolf had a cutie mark, what would it be?
Sorry.
I've had this question at least half a dozen times over these past months. I don't know if there's any one thing that could represent Dr. Wolf. I mean, what would you think would fit, Tarek?
I was thinking a pair of spectacles.
Maybe? I don't know.
That's a possibility. But other than that, I mean, a cutie mark needs to be something simple that says a lot about the personality of...
Well, I actually had an idea, maybe. Of
oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking maybe a notepad and pencil, because if you think about the possibilities that could be done with pencil and paper, they're basically infinite. I mean, if you think about it, you can write with a pencil and paper, with like take notes, that's learning. You could draw with a pencil and paper, that's creative. You know, things like that. So it's almost like possibilities are endless with a simple piece of paper and a pencil. And I honestly think that since Dr. Wolf can't decide what his talent is, maybe his talents are endless. Maybe he just has so many skills.
That's a very good point, Finn.
I suppose that could work, yeah.
Yeah.
And if any of the fan artists want to try to come up with their own ideas or even...
Oh, don't encourage them!
Why not don't encourage them?
Because you know it's just going to create this flood of fan art.
Yeah, but if they wanted to come up with their own ideas or they wanted to draw Dr. Wolf with a notepad and a pencil like Finn suggested, yeah, that would be interesting to see.
I think it would suit you really well.
So, fan artists, you have your subject matter.
Uh-huh.
Grab your pencils, papers, tablets, whatever you use, and get to work. Alrighty. Let's see what else we got. Okay, we did that one. We did that one. We've done that one. We've done almost all of these. Oh, here's a good one. How do I go about dealing with an inferiority complex?
Okay. Let me think about that one for a second.
I suppose the first thing that comes to my mind was a video I did with Mad Munchkin last year, a moment with Dr. Wolf, Mad Munchkin, and dealing with inadequacy. And the discussion we came up with was the fact that even now, Mad Munchkin, when she's making her art, she's always comparing what she does to the works of those that she admires and never feeling like she can measure up. And I'm trying to remember everything we talked about there, but essentially we got to a point where if you were the best at what you do, what would you be learning by looking at those around you? What would you be learning if everyone saw your work as a masterpiece and was constantly praising whatever you create? Maybe you could argue that even in such situations, a master would still look to improve upon their craft, but in many ways, the best way for us to learn are through those feelings of, well, I want to be like this person who makes this thing. I want to be able to improve upon what I'm doing, and I want to learn from them. Those feelings of inadequacy can be harmful, but they can also be helpful as long as you're willing to apply them to your own talents and giving yourself that drive to keep improving and find your passion and overcoming your own challenges by working yourself up to those you admire and one day reaching that pedestal that you've always been looking up to.
That's pretty good. Taking your perceived inadequacy as not as a failing, but as room to improve, and I think that's just a question of attitude. I personally suffered from a big inferiority complex when I was younger. I always felt that that everyone else looked down on me, that I was always the fool of the group, and that what I did really didn't measure up to what people expected of me. I'm trying to think of the time where I emerged from that, and the thing that comes to mind was my sophomore year in high school. I was in the marching band in high school, and Finn, I heard that.
Trumpeter right here.
Saxophone. Anyway, I was in the marching band in high school, and it was in that group where I finally felt like I belonged. I felt like I found some friends who accepted me for who I was. And it got to the point where it was my sophomore year that I realized I don't care what other people think anymore. I like who I am. I like the person that I am becoming, and I feel like I am a worthwhile person. And so when I got to that point, realizing that I don't care what people say anymore, it was like this revelation to me that I could go out and people still threw insults at me and people still belittled me, but I started thinking in my mind, you know what? That guy doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he says because I know who I am, and I know that I am a worthwhile person.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how do you get to that point? From the point where you feel like you're not very worthwhile as a person, you feel very inferior, how do you get from there to the point where you don't care what other people say? That's the tough part. I think what did it for me was I started surrounding myself with people who were supportive. Some people who didn't tear me down, but who would uplift and who would encourage. And I think I feel very lucky that I got a couple of friends when I was young who were that type. They would not, no matter how stupid I was, they would not bring me down. They wouldn't insult me. They wouldn't laugh at me, but they would encourage me to be better. Maybe the trick is to be that kind of person, to choose not to belittle or to laugh at people, but to always encourage and to build up. I don't know.
I think that works. I think that works very nicely, yeah. What else have you got for us, Vin?
Next. All right. This is an interesting one. This is directly towards Dr. Wolf. You've been helping people for a very long time, a year now exactly. And who do you go to when you have a problem? Who do you look up to?
Well, as we mentioned earlier on in this live stream, I specifically wanted to do a moment with Dr. Wolf session focused on Dr. Wolf. And the character I went to was Tarek. When I wanted Dr. Wolf to talk about something that was personal and genuine in his life, I figured the best character to have him talk to was Tarek here. Now, I will say that tomorrow's video that Finn had worked so hard on, and I'm very grateful once again, by the way.
You're very welcome.
In that video, Dr. Wolf is feeling overwhelmed and does find a bit of an alternate solution on who he goes to talk to when he's feeling overwhelmed, but I will leave that for the audience to discover tomorrow on how we came up with that.
Shh, no spoilers.
Right. And
hey, I haven't seen it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. But yeah, in the past, it's been Dr. Wolf would go to Tarek when he's been feeling overwhelmed, and you'll see in tomorrow's video another avenue that Dr. Wolf would take when he's feeling overwhelmed.
So you don't always go to the goofball when you want to talk about your problems.
You weren't very much a goofball when you were in that A Moment with Dr. Wolf session, though. The only goofball moment was near the end when you were firing up the grill, literally.
All right, then.
All right. Shall we continue?
Indeed.
Alrighty.
You still holding up there, Dr. Wolf?
I'm okay. My throat's still feeling a little bit of it, but I want to keep this going. We're on a roll.
Right. We're on a roll here. Let's keep it going, people. All right. So, do you want to? Well, I actually got two interesting ones here. Do you want something personal, or do you want something like outside of that?
You pick. You pick.
All right. Let's go with a question that I'm pretty sure. Personal it is. Okay, this is pretty sure a question a lot of people have. How do I tell someone I'm part of the fandom?
How do you explain that you're a brony?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure a ton of people have that problem.
Yes. That is a question that I've probably gotten more often than any other from my watchers. How do I explain to someone that I'm a brony, that I like MLP, that I'm a part of this community?
Mm-hmm.
I myself kept it a very closely guarded secret for a very long time. I first became aware of the brony fandom back in 2011. Throughout much of 2012, I was watching a lot of the brony content out there, and finally reached a point where I watched the show, every single episode, what they had up to that point. It wasn't until early 2013 that I explained to anyone that I was interested in MLP. And I believe Tarek here was the first one that I even mentioned that to.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Arg. That was also around the time when you were discussing how much fun it would be to go to a convention, and I suddenly said to myself, there's this brony convention in Salt Lake City. I've never been there. But the question we're trying to focus on here is how to explain to other people, and I think the first thing you can do is find really good videos online to help explain that for you. And the video that comes to my mind more often than any other was actually put together by PBS Idea Channel, and it's titled, "Are Bronies Changing the Definition of Masculinity?"
Seen it.
It's only a few minutes long, and it's a very well done video that explains both sides of the issue and gets people starting to think, starting to open up to the idea that this is not what they expected it to be. That's the first video that I would recommend. If people wanted to get more in-depth than that, and I mean really in-depth than that, then I could also recommend Saber Sparks' Ballad of the Bronies, which is over an hour long, but one of his earliest works that goes really in-depth into what the brony fandom is and what they do and why it's fun and why people have issues with it and so on and so forth. But if whoever you're trying to convince doesn't have that kind of patience, and understandably so, then that first video from PBS Idea Channel will certainly help, and explaining how you have changed for the better because of this community, how you are improving upon your talents or being more social or something that whomever you're talking to, some quality that they can understand and they can respect and admire, that would be a positive change. Because trying to explain MLP and the fandom is going to make a lot of people scratch their heads. That's not something that everybody can relate to. You have to find ways that they would understand and they would relate to on how it's a positive influence. And that opens them up more to the idea that well, what is MLP about? Why is it that it's having this effect on so many people? Those would be my first couple of recommendations.
I think it's really similar. People on the chat are still asking, is Tarek a brony? No, I'm not a brony, but I have a lot of understanding of the brony fandom, and I'm also a furry, which the furry fandom is in a lot of ways very similar to the brony fandom, especially in that there are a lot of furries out there who are hesitant to tell their friends, their family, that they are part of the fandom. One of the things that I always try to tell people is that everybody has a passion. Everybody has some world that they like to live in. For some, that world may be professional sports. For some, that world may be cars or popular music or books or movies or television, those kinds of things, where they can have this sense that they can enter a world that is much bigger than their own, and they can have that kind of larger than life type of feeling. They can live vicariously through their heroes. For some of us, that world is filled with pastel-colored ponies or anthropomorphic animals that walk on two legs. It is no different than any other passion that someone else may have. And I also like to talk about how on a lot of children's literature or a lot of popular movies, you do see these kind of representations, and they're very much mainstream. And so that is the kind of thing that I, as a furry, that I appreciate, and that attracts me to the fandom. I try and do my best to let the person know that it is it's very mainstream, actually, more than a lot of people think.
What else have we got, Finn?
All right, here's one that I actually would like an answer to myself. You've had moments with some of the main six so far, and possibly when you're done with that, maybe you'd want to move on to some other characters in Equestria. What do you think a moment with Discord would be like?
Oh, wow.
I've already been coming up with ideas on what I could do with that, but there's no way I'm going to try to tackle that anytime soon. Believe me.
Just all of the shenanigans and the hijinks that could result from something like that. That is very intriguing to me. But I think we would have to really plan out that script very carefully so that we could be true to Discord's character.
I think the biggest problem is how could an artist or animator handle all of those shenanigans? I mean, goodness gracious, it's constantly changing the background, constantly changing the furniture, constantly changing the look of each character. I mean, Discord is shifting his form so often. You know that you have to have that
cloud that rains chocolate milk. I want that cloud.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So
see?
I'm more worried about the amount of work that I would have to put on an artist or animator to put that together, rather than the script part of it.
I could do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, Finn, that's your next assignment.
On it.
I'll try to keep that in mind, Finn, but believe me, trying to come up with a moment with Dr. Wolf for Discord and constantly changing everything back and forth and back and forth and back and forth is going to be quite harrowing.
I'm sure I can handle it.
Whatever you guys do, I want to be involved.
Oh, really? And how would you be involved? Basically, you
could pop by for an ending gag or something.
I would contribute the chaos and silliness.
I'll bet you would. Okay. Anyways, that's an idea that we're going to have to put way, way off in the future, though. That's
Yeah, I'm
not
afraid
even
so,
close
yeah.
to ready for that.
All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, here's a good thing. I personally have a hard time asking other people for things because no matter what I do, I feel guilty for myself. Any tips on that?
I think that stems from a sense. Again, I think it's part of the inferiority complex that some people suffer from, where some people feel that they are not worthy or they don't deserve any help from someone else or a gift from someone else.
Or maybe they just don't want to be a bother to anyone else.
That could be it as well. And I think that really stems from a lack of confidence in your own self-worth. It's very easy for someone to say, okay, get over it. No, but it's not that easy. Just like depression, the inferiority complex is not that easy to get over. It takes time. But what you need to tell yourself that you are worthwhile. I think one of the things that really comes out of MLP more than a lot of other fandoms that I've seen is that every person is worthwhile. Every person is worth knowing and befriending. Everyone has something that they can contribute, be it large or small, but there is no person that is so worthless or inadequate or inferior that they don't deserve to be befriended by someone or given a gift or given help. There is no one that is that worthless. Everyone has worth. And believing that, you can tell yourself that all day long, but believing that, I think, is the hard part. Is when you get to a point where you start believing that you are, that you do have worth, that you are a valid person. I think that's where the healing has to happen.
Also reminds me of the ending section of A Moment with Dr. Wolf and Striving Onward Without Your Dreams. That whole last minute where where the text on screen is talking about how even if you aren't able to do everything you'd like to do, that you do have purpose and you can have meaning. And if you can overcome your hesitations and your struggles, you can even ask others to partake in the purpose that you serve and help to create something wonderful. Your willingness to ask others for help and collaborate, I suppose, is a good way to put it. I used to be so antisocial, honestly. I was so worried about ever asking people to give of their time and give of their efforts because I didn't feel like I was really going to make that much of a difference if I asked anyone for help on anything. It was really just sticking with my own thing. Nowadays, I look back on that and I wish that I had done so much more so much sooner because I've learned so much more by working with so many people. I've probably worked with more artists and animators and voice actors and other YouTubers than any other brony YouTuber I've ever come across. I can't get enough of it now because I'm willing to say to myself, yeah, I can contribute, and yeah, if I work with others, I can learn from what they can provide, and they can learn from me too.
I'm assuming the dead silence is to get to the next question.
Yeah, my throat's starting to feel it again.
Yeah.
I've been talking too much.
Take a break, Doc.
Yeah.
Oh, here's an interesting one. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, but speaking of working with many artists and animators, what's your favorite Moment with Dr. Wolf art style?
Oh, no, no. I don't know if I could pick a favorite. I mean, seriously. I am thoroughly impressed with the amount of quality that so many of these artists and animators have provided. And in many ways, it's like comparing apples and oranges.
I
I
know.
like so many of these different styles for so many different reasons. And quite frankly, I don't know if I could pick one.
Yeah, it's kind of not a fair question.
Yeah,
There are,
personally, I always thought that the different variety of art styles in All of the Moment with Dr. Wolf, it's sort of like all the individual patients. They all have their own individual problems and interesting personalities, and all the individual art styles. It's like the Moment with Dr. Wolf. It's very varied. It's very unique. So a lot of different things like that. And it's hard to pick just one. I agree with you.
I have to send a shout out to Anastasia right here. She has been very persistently and patiently asking, Dr. Wolf, do you like some pony?
Do I like some pony? They're asking if I have a special some pony. Is that the question?
I think that's what they're asking.
Okay. I'm sure that many people have noticed this before, and when anyone has ever asked that specific question, I have always given them this specific answer. But I want everyone to take a very close look at my hand here. You will see two rings, and this is a CTR ring, and this is a wedding ring. I have been married for nearly 5 years now. Just so everybody knows, I'm putting it on screen so everybody can see it clearly. I do have a special sun pony. I've had a special sun pony for many years now.
Good answer, Doc.
Mm-hmm. It's squeezing me dry here. Let's see.
Are we running low on good questions?
Just about.
Oh, the chat is going nuts right now because they're seeing, oh my gosh, he's married. Oh, then everybody's going, woo, wow, ah.
Oh, goodness.
Let's see. Let's see if there's any other good ones we can use.
I'm surprised that so many people didn't realize that I was married. I mean, anyone who ever asked me that question, I would say, yes, I'm married. I mean, I've always held this hand up in many of my previous live streams. People didn't really notice this.
Oh, but you're being too subtle. You're being too subtle. Yeah, I think this is the first time that you've actually come out and said, yes, I am married. Not everybody's going to notice the ring on the finger. Some people like me they're very good at missing hints and clues. So for those of you out there who are not very good at getting clues, I am right there with you.
Oh, here's a good one. Actually, I have this problem myself. How does one deal with loneliness?
Loneliness. I think a lot of people suffer from that. And yet the really tragic thing is when some people feel lonely when they're surrounded by people. You can be in an absolute crowd and you still feel lonely. I am one of those. Let me tell you right now. I can be in a big crowd of people, and I look around and I feel like I don't belong, and that's a very lonely feeling. What do I do about that? I'm going to wax a little religious here. I want to tell you I'm very deeply religious. I am a Christian. Yes. And for me, during those times where I feel like I am alone, where I feel like I don't fit in, where I feel like I don't have support, I know that there is someone who has my back. There is someone that loves me, and there is someone that loves me more deeply than I will ever realize. And when I get into a situation where I feel like I am alone, I know that I'm not truly alone. Now, not all of you share the same beliefs that I do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to promise you that whatever your beliefs may be, you are not alone. There are other people out there who feel the same way you do. And you are not the only person who is going through these difficulties and going through this kind of suffering. And perhaps that is enough to know that you are not the only person out there who is experiencing these feelings, to know that you're not truly alone.
I suppose I should also chime in by re-emphasizing some of the things that we've discussed earlier, that sometimes when you're feeling the most alone and when you worry that no one else is willing to reach out to you, you can still make a difference in the life of someone else if you're willing to step outside of your own comfort zone, which I know is incredibly difficult. I know how hard that is. But if you're willing to make that kind of sacrifice of your comfort zone, that kind of sacrifice of fulfilling your own needs, and help someone else to not feel quite so alone. In my experience, that has always been the best way to overcome your own loneliness, by being willing to reach out to others. Again, it's really, really hard to do at times, and I don't know if everyone can have that same courage, as much as I would try to encourage that. But it can make a difference. It does make a difference. I tell you from personal experience that there is hope for that if you're willing to just add to a conversation that someone else has started, or reach out to someone who you can tell is not feeling very high at the moment or down in the depths of despair. That is usually what helps loneliness the most, is when you're willing to be the one to step outside of your comfort zone.
And that can be so hard to do sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I said that at least 3 times in that past minute, how hard that is. I know it's so hard, but it can make a difference. It does make a difference.
Yeah. All right. Are we coming to the end of questions, or do we have more?
We do have more, actually, if you want to continue.
I'm still up for it. I'm worried about Dr. Wolf, if he's going to start choking to death.
I'm not choking to death, but I'm worried that tomorrow at this sales conference I'm barely going to have a voice left.
Should we set a limit on how many questions we should do left?
I'm in the moment right now. I still want to be able to make a difference. I want to be able to help and reach out, because I'm talking about helping and reaching out. I know it's hurting my throat right now, but I have this opportunity right now, and I want to keep trying to make it work even a little longer.
Well, I admire you for working through the pain.
If you find those good questions, let's try to get to them.
I do. I've got a good one right here, actually, and she's actually been really persistent. I think it's a she. I'm not 100% sure. How can you manage to make friends with other bronies if you're too young to go anywhere yourself?
Oh, that's a good one. You're talking about people who are underage, like perhaps 13, 14, 15.
Yes.
That's really tricky.
Yeah. There are many sides to that conflict right there, I know.
Yeah. I'm a parent. I have 4 boys of my own, and my oldest boys are 15 and 13 respectively. And both of them are, to one degree or another, involved in either the brony or furry fandom. I've spoken with my wife about this, and there are, I have to admit, there are things about both fandoms that I would rather not expose my children to. And that's so I want to try and keep them away from places where they might be exposed to those kinds of things until they're old enough to make those decisions on their own. But on the other hand, there are groups out there that are very trustworthy, groups that are part of the fandom that that really shun all of the more adult stuff and really focus on what makes the fandom good, and the artwork and the animation and the storytelling and those kinds of things. I went on to one of those groups. It was on Facebook. It's for those of you who don't know, it's the Mormon Furries group on Facebook, and I investigated it and looked at some of the rules and the code of conduct and stuff like that. And after a while, I discovered that it is a place where I can feel safe allowing my children to participate. And so both of my children are members of that group, and they get on and they talk to other furries, and they are exposed to the artwork and the comics and the fun that's part of the fandom. And I don't have to worry about them running into something that's objectionable. So I think the key here is to, regardless of which side you're on, if you're the parent or if you're the child, work together. The parent and the child work together to find a place where you both feel safe and that you can be exposed to the good parts of the fandom without getting into something questionable.
And for those of you who are pretty much on your own, I can recommend Equestria Daily does a pretty good job of keeping everything on their site PG. That anything that isn't PG, they will put up warnings about this is not this is not considered PG. And even the forum chats there, for the most part, have been kept pretty safe because they have moderators there to make sure that things don't get out of hand. So that's at least one place to start, is Equestria Daily.
All right.
Next.
Yep.
Alrighty, here we go. Okay. This is actually an interesting one. How do you go about being honest about your personal fears and shortcomings when people hold you in such a high position of respect?
Oh, goodness. I think that is almost a word-for-word kind of situation that I wrote about in A Moment with Dr. Wolf, Applejack, where what I was talking to her about, or what Dr. Wolf was talking to her about, was how showing your weaknesses to other people can sometimes actually be more beneficial than always holding yourself as being perfect in front of them. Showing them that, yes, I make mistakes, and this is what I learned from them, and this is how I struggle to overcome them, can oftentimes be far more helpful than being that prime example that you think you should be. In the case of children who look up to you in particular, whenever they make a mistake and they look up to you and see that, oh, this person never makes a mistake and I'm making a mistake, I'll never be as good as they are, that can really hamper their self-confidence when they're growing up. And showing them that that you make similar mistakes when you've been growing up, and even now still overcoming some similar struggles, it helps them to find confidence that, hey, this person I look up to, they haven't always been as perfect as I've always thought they were. And yeah, when I make a mistake, I can overcome that struggle the same way they did and learn from it the same way they did, and maybe even come up with something new. That would be my answer to the question.
And let me just add to that. It's actually, I would prefer having a person that I look up to be willing to admit their mistakes, be willing to admit their weaknesses, and because I not only watch their strengths and what they do well, but I also watch how they handle making a mistake, how they handle a weakness. So many people try and cover up their mistakes and their weaknesses, or try and justify them, or excuse them away, and that, personally, I think that's a sign of weakness. When someone has when they make a mistake or they have a fault or a weakness, and they're willing to say, yes, this is my problem, this is something that I struggle with, or this is the mistake that I made. Now, this is what I'm going to do to try and overcome this, or to fix the mistake that I made. And they don't try and hide it, but they come out and say and show the people that they are not perfect, but they are willing to work and put forth the effort to overcome their mistakes and their shortcomings. I have much more respect for someone that will do that than for someone who tries to present this absolutely perfect public image when I know that nobody is perfect. And so if someone is trying to present to me a perfect public image, I'm very skeptical. I don't believe it.
Sorry. My voice is really going, but I'm still trying to get through at least a couple more. Do you have any more good ones for us?
Yes, I do. This one's kind of on the show in general, but I think it's actually an interesting topic. Do you think there's any subject matter that an MLP moral shouldn't tackle?
I don't know. I think that there are a great many more subjects that the MLP staff could handle if given the proper care. I know there are certain topics that would be scary for them to try because if they handled it wrong, it could have really dire consequences. But they've surprised me many times in the past in unexpected ways of tackling subjects that I didn't think they ever would. And I think they're capable of handling much more. Maybe there's a limit to how much they should attempt, but I'm not sure where that limit would be. I honestly think that they can handle a lot more than what they've attempted thus far. I think they have that capability.
I think that the show is, for the most part, good at expressing good morals and how to and good behaviors without becoming preachy. I don't think I can't think of a specific time where the show actually came off as more preachy and saying this is the way that you should act because this is the right moral idea. No. See, I usually see it to be more subtle, and of course the analysts jump all over it and they analyze it and bring it out into the daylight and make it very clear to everyone. But I don't think the show specifically tries to come out and hit you over the head with morality. Okay, we've got about 4 minutes before we hit the 2-hour mark. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's
probably
the longest podcast I've ever put together thus far.
Well, it's definitely, I would say, we're putting this time to good use for sure.
Yeah. We've gone over some really good topics, and that's why I'm trying to keep myself going even though my voice is going.
Well, I admire you for working through the pain, Doctor.
Yeah. We'll see whether or not
confidence, dedication.
We'll see whether or not I can engage in normal conversation at this sales conference tomorrow. We'll see.
Oh, here's an actually this one has actually been very persistent with their question. Being an artist, I am hesitant on doing fan work and showing others. A friend said it would be a good way to get people to look at your stuff, but I fear that I'd be known too much for my fan work. What do you think?
So I guess I'm not sure I understand the question. They're saying that they have a repertoire of artwork, but some of that artwork is fan work, and they're hesitant to show the fan work along with their other artwork. I guess that's what they're asking.
That's what I'm assuming. That's the question, quote for quote. So I'm not exactly sure what they're talking about.
Showing fan work, yes, it does reveal that you are a fan. And unfortunately, that may lead to some people pigeonholing you into saying, "Oh, he's just a brony artist," or "He's just, he just does anime," or that kind of thing. To be honest, I don't think you can get around that. There are going to be critics. There are going to be people that pigeonhole you, and you know yourself. You know that you are not defined as only a brony artist or only an anime artist. You know the truth. And so if you feel like people are pigeonholing you for showing your other works, then bring out more of your other artwork and show them that it's not true. Show them that pigeonholing you is a mistake. But on the other hand, I don't think you should hide fan work, especially if that's some of your really good work, because I personally have a lot of admiration and respect for artists because I'm an amateur artist myself, and I know what they go through. To see the quality work that artists put out, regardless of whether it's an original work or a fan work or whatnot, in my mind, it only builds my admiration for them when I can see the variety of their talent and see the versatility of the things that they can create in their artwork. And so I think that showing fan art can only increase your repertoire, and it can show how versatile you truly are as an artist. Which anybody who really understands art and respects art, they're going to look at that fan art and they're going to say, yeah, I see where he's going.
All right. Do you have anything else?
Yep. Got questions aplenty right here. All right. Here's a good one. If you had to take just one thing away from everything MLP related that you've done, collabs, videos, watching the show, reading the comics, whatever, just one thing that you could take away from all this that you're happy you learned, what would it be?
Happy that I learned from the experience of being part of the brony community? That's the question?
Yes.
I suppose I am happiest with learning how much of a difference I could make in the lives of others. That's probably the one thing that I'd want to take away from this whole experience more than anything else, is the fact that I learned how much more of a potential I have when I decided to overcome my hesitations and step out of my comfort zone. That, hey, I'm making a difference, that I have all this purpose that I didn't know was even possible. That's probably more than anything else what I hope to take away from this whole experience of being part of the brony community. And what I keep encouraging others to learn too, that they have great potential that they could learn about themselves.
Well, here's a good one. This is going to be another quote-for-quote question because I'm not exactly sure how to rephrase this one. The career that I'm going into requires me to get myself out there with my art and graphic novels. I get this mixed up with pride, and I absolutely hate pride. So how can I overcome this?
Ah, I see. So it's the age-old question of, if I am presenting myself to the world, am I being a braggart or a show-off?
Mm-hmm.
I think do I understand the question correctly?
Yes.
Okay. That's something that some people have really struggled with in authors, artists, musicians, composers. A lot of people who have these public works that you either show or demonstrate to someone else, they kind of struggle with that, saying, if I am putting this out there, am I being a prideful person and saying, hey, everybody, look at me, hey, I do this great stuff, and everybody give me praise? And unfortunately, there are some people who do that, and that's really what they seek. They want the recognition. They want the ego building. And unfortunately, that makes it difficult for others who want to present the work as the work itself and not for personal aggrandizement. My suggestion is look into your heart and sit down and sincerely ask yourself, why am I putting my artwork out there? Why am I putting my work out into the public? Is it for the building up of others so that people can look at that and be inspired, or people can appreciate the medium, or is it for entertainment value? It can bring a smile to someone's face. If those are the reasons, I mean, the reasons like that, you're doing it for other people. If that's the reason why you're doing it, then don't worry about pride, because what you're doing is serving. You are helping others, you are building people up, you're bringing smiles to people's faces, and there is absolutely nothing prideful about that. On the other hand, if you ask yourself that question and you realize, I'm doing this because I want people to look at me and see how great I am, then you need to be really careful. And maybe you need to do some soul searching and see if you can change your purpose. Because if the only reason you're doing it is because you want people to look at you and see how great you are, then that really is a lot of pride, and I can't recommend that.
Well spoken, sir.
Indeed. All right, what do we got next? Oh, here's an interesting one. This person's having relationship troubles. It says, my current boyfriend treats me like a princess, and yet I feel like garbage. He gives me gifts and guilt trips me when I don't do the same. What should I do?
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope your boyfriend's listening.
Let's lay down some advice on that.
All right. A healthy relationship is not, the way relationships work is that both people contribute to the relationship. And so many people think, there's this erroneous notion out there that a relationship has to be 50% and 50%. That each person contributes 50% to the relationship so that the relationship works. What that does is that gives the unwritten expectation that both people have to contribute an equal amount in order for the relationship to work, and that's a lie. You can't do that. The reason why is relationships are for creating a single entity from two people, where that entity can build up the two people, that they can support each other. When one of the people in the relationship feels weak, or feels inadequate, or it is unable to contribute that 50%, then the other person who's only giving 50%, suddenly there's a disconnect, and maybe only 70% of the relationship is working. You can't do that. Two people in a relationship have to contribute 100%. You got 100% both ways, so that when one person is unable to give everything, that other person is already giving 100%, and the relationship still thrives. What that means is, you, as a person in the relationship, you give your all, you give your 100% to that relationship, and you do not expect your partner to reciprocate. That is such a hard thing to learn, because so many people think, oh, I have put so much into this relationship, I deserve for that person to treat me back the same way I treat them. That you can't do that, because as soon as you start doing that, then you're breaking the foundation of your relationship. You can't do that. The giving in a relationship has to come from within the heart, and that each person needs to give their 100% to that relationship, but it has to come from within them. If you are coercing your partner to give to the relationship, or you're guilt tripping your partner into giving to the relationship, then what you're doing is you're driving a wedge between you. You're creating distrust, you're creating guilt, and those are feelings that do not belong in a good relationship.
I don't suppose I could have said it better myself. And I'm glad that you're saying all of that, because my voice probably wouldn't have been able to keep up with saying that all myself.
All right, we may want to start bringing this down to a close, because it looks like Dr. Wolf is going to need to drop out.
All right.
I'm not there yet, but I keep feeling like I'm getting close.
Well, I can hear it in your voice, bro.
Should we limit it to like maybe just 1 or 2 questions and then wrap it up?
If you can find another good one, I'd like to try to do another good one. I really would.
All right.
We're on such a good roll here.
Yeah. Answer as many as possible. All right. Here's one. It's actually a pretty deep one. In my pursuit of self-betterment, I've begun to feel a sense of constant melancholy and self-loathing in my life, and I've forgotten to love myself. Do you have any tips on learning to love oneself again?
We probably covered a lot of our thoughts on that very early on in this conversation, I think.
We did talk about loving yourself, but I think the question is, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you
love oneself again after a long period of just melancholic thoughts?
Yeah. How do you break out of this thoughts of despair or lack of self-confidence? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's really tough, because like I said before, a lot of this has to come from within. And if you already hate yourself, it's really difficult to start saying, "Well, I like myself now." That's not easy to do. Again, see, my solution won't apply to everyone. I have to go back to my religious roots. I know that I am worthwhile, and regardless of how many mistakes I make or how far I fall, I know that God doesn't make mistakes, and He made me, and that means that I am worthwhile to Him, and that's what's important. Now, I know, and I realize that not everybody shares that belief. But let me promise you, just from a strictly secular standpoint, get rid of the religious implications. Every human being has worth. Every human being can contribute and is worthwhile. Those who hate themselves or have this sense of self-loathing, I'm not really sure what it might stem from. It might stem from guilt, or it might stem from past experiences or feelings of inadequacy. I know it's really hard, but listen to other people when they tell you that you are worthwhile, that you are a valid person, and that you are able to contribute. The self-loathing and the self-hatred is very destructive, and I'm sure that a lot of you already know that. Open your ears, open your heart when the people around you tell you that you are a good person, that you are worthwhile.
Thank you very much for that, Derek.
All right, I think we should limit it to just one more.
Yeah.
All right, okay. One last question.
Very last one.
Let's see. Okay. Actually, here's one I don't think we've covered yet. I'm having trouble figuring out what I should learn and what I should do. I feel like I'm being pulled in 100 directions. I want to learn everything and do everything, and I feel like I'm not making progress in one specific area. What do you think I should do about this?
Tarek and I actually released a video on my channel not too long ago that addresses that very specific question. It's discovering what motivates you, I think is the title.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think we've discussed pretty much all of our thoughts, or all the best thoughts we could give on that subject in that video. So, I
In a
encourage
nutshell,
everyone to look that up. Yeah.
yeah. In a nutshell, basically, we outlined a process to discover what you're good at and what you enjoy doing. And by looking through your past experiences, and then based on those experiences, finding out what kind of thing motivates you to be passionate about what you do. You may be surprised to find out that what motivates you isn't what you thought. But I recommend you go watch that video.
Okay. I suppose it's time that we wrap things up.
Let's shut it down.
Yeah.
Actually, before you can I say something real quick?
Huh? Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is just sort of an end of video thing. I just want to say, Dr. Wolf, thanks a lot for having me here, for allowing me to work on this project. It's honestly been the most fun thing I think I've ever done being in this fandom. It's been an absolute honor working with you and everybody else that I've been doing it with, and I just want to say thanks a lot.
Well, thank you so much for your willingness to contribute, Finn. I am impressed with what you came up with, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing all the audience response tomorrow morning.
I'm looking forward to watching it. Gee whiz.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
It was a ton of fun putting it together, and I have to say I couldn't have put anything that good looking together on my own. I really couldn't.
Oh, thank you.
So I am grateful for so many people who have worked with me and have contributed their talents and support the work I do, because I know I couldn't have come anywhere near as far without them, as well as the support of all the people who watch my content and like and favorite and comment, and in particular, even the Patreon contributors have made such a difference in helping the work progress and giving me the chance to travel around the country. I'm going to be attending probably as many as 5 conventions this year, pretty much just because of people contributing to my Patreon. And that is what I have been so very grateful for, that people have believed in me so much in those many ways. So thank you once again to everybody who has supported A Moment with Dr. Wolf series for an entire year, and I look forward to bringing so much more. And I want to thank both Tarek and Finn for being a support even tonight. I know I couldn't have lasted this long without them.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the chat are just they're saying thank you, Finn, thank you, Tarek, thank you, Dr. Wolf, for putting on this. Well, I want to just collectively tell you all, we are happy to help out. We're happy to discuss things, to take questions, and even though we can't take any more questions tonight, questions in the messages, we try and read every one of them, and we try and get back to the serious questions that are presented to us. So
did the best I could to find the most interesting ones. So thanks all you guys for asking such interesting questions, for keeping this as long as it has.
It has been a very fun experience, and it went a lot longer than I expected, and for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's give your traditional goodbye.
I know. That's what I do. Thank you all for coming this evening, and as always, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Good night, everybody.